If you've ever watched Stephen A. even once, you know the man does not believe in calm rebuttals. He believes in verbal decapitations. And when he caught wind of Dillon Gabriel's little jab, oh, he went in, fast, loud, and with surgical precision. Live on national television with the red light on and zero hesitation, Stephen A. Smith absolutely eviscerated Dillon Gabriel in what can only be described as one of the most brutal sports commentary takedowns in recent memory.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
He didn't just criticize. He dismantled. And he didn't stop at the football stats. He went straight for the relevance. Let me be very clear, Stephen A. began, voice rising like a siren, finger jabbing the air like a gavel. Dillon Gabriel, what exactly have you done? What game, what season, what moment have you had that puts you in the same conversation as Shedeur Sanders? You could hear producers scrambling in the control room. You could hear co-hosts shifting nervously in their chairs. And you could feel the collective full-body cringe from Dillon Gabriel's camp, wherever they were hiding. Because Stephen A. wasn't just angry. He was insulted. He dragged up every stat, every forgettable performance, every time Gabriel had come up short in a big moment. And then, with that perfect Stephen A. blend of drama and deadly accuracy, he pulled out the trump card. Meanwhile, he said, slowing down for emphasis, Shedeur Sanders has done more for the culture of college football in one off-season than Dillon Gabriel has in his entire career. Boom. You could feel the energy shift. And it wasn't just about football anymore. Because what Stephen A. was really doing, between the fiery quotes and the scathing eye rolls, was calling out the nerve of a mid-tier quarterback taking shots at a young black athlete who's not only performing but transforming the game. And let's not pretend it's just about playbooks and passing yards. This was about visibility, legacy, presence. Shedeur Sanders, son of the legend Deion Primetime Sanders, has never once stepped onto the field unnoticed. Cameras follow him. Headlines chase him. And yet, through all that pressure, he's delivered. He's shown poise, patience, and undeniable flashes of brilliance. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel has played at how many schools now? Oklahoma. UCF. Solid numbers. Respectable hustle. But when has he ever owned the room? Exactly. Stephen A. pounced on that too. You're not Shedeur. You don't move the needle. You don't sell the story. You don't change the conversation. And if you're going to come for someone who does, you better bring more than petty quotes and weak stats. Gabriel never stood a chance. And what made the moment so brutal, so complete, was that Stephen A. didn't even have to exaggerate. He just held up the mirror. And in that mirror, Gabriel didn't look like the confident, underdog warrior he probably envisioned himself as. He looked petty, small, insecure. Because here's the real issue, Gabriel thought he was punching up. He thought taking a swipe at the hotshot with the famous dad would make him look tough. Like the gritty grinder calling out the entitled star. But what he didn't realize, Shedeur has already been through more pressure, more scrutiny, and more responsibility than Gabriel has ever faced. And he's done it while representing something bigger than himself. Because Shedeur isn't just playing quarterback. He's carrying a legacy. He's carrying a cultural narrative that stretches back decades. He's carrying the expectations of a new generation of black athletes who aren't waiting for validation, they're demanding it. And in that world, Dillon Gabriel's comments weren't just tone-deaf. They were offensive. Stephen A. caught that instantly. And he made sure the world caught it too. This isn't just about football, he said. This is about respect. And Dillon Gabriel, you just proved you don't understand it. End scene. But even after the smoke cleared, after the segment went viral, after fans flooded social media with clips and reactions and Stephen A. ethered him, memes, Gabriel still didn't respond. No apology. No clarification. Just radio silence. And honestly, what could he even say? Because once someone like Stephen A. Smith has dismantled your credibility live in front of millions, there's no real way to bounce back. That clip will follow Gabriel for the rest of his career. Every time his name pops up, that soundbite will come up right alongside it. And Shedeur? He didn't even have to respond. He didn't need a comeback. He didn't need a press statement. Because Stephen A. said everything that needed to be said, and then some. If anything, this whole debacle made Shedeur look even better. Because in a moment where it would have been easy to clap back, especially with the social media platform he has, he stayed focused, stayed silent, stayed above it, and just like that he wins again. Because that's how you know someone's a star. When people come for you unprovoked and you don't even have to defend yourself, because the world does it for you. And let's not ignore the bigger takeaway here. This wasn't just a petty quarterback beef. This was a reminder that words matter. That credibility matters. That you can't just sling disrespect and expect there to be no fallout. Especially not when the person you're targeting is walking around with a spotlight and a last name that commands respect on sight. Shedeur Sanders is rising. Fast. And whether you love the hype or hate it, you can't deny it. He's not just talented, he's media savvy. He's composed. He's self-aware. And most importantly, he understands the moment. Gabriel? He misread the room. He thought he was playing a harmless media game. But what he did was step into a cultural conversation that's bigger than him, and he got steamrolled. So what now? Well, for Gabriel, the damage is done. That clip's out there. That reputation hit is real. And every time he steps on the field, the comparison to Sanders will be louder, more pointed. And if he falters even once, that soundbite will echo again. But for Shedeur, it's just another day, another headline. Another example of how staying composed in the face of nonsense can be more powerful than any clapback. He didn't lift a finger and still came out on top. Stephen A. handed him the W and reminded the entire sports world that when it comes to commanding attention, influence, and respect, you don't need to talk like a star when you already are one. And to the rest of the college football world, maybe take this as a warning. If you're gonna come for Shedeur Sanders, you better be bulletproof. Because if you're not, Stephen A. will remind you, loudly, brutally, and with receipts, why you should have kept his name out your mouth. Because in the world of sports media, moments like this stick. They get clipped, reposted, circulated in group chats, stitched on TikTok, quoted by other athletes. Coaches see it. Analysts see it. Fans definitely see it. And suddenly, whatever you said, whatever throwaway dig you made, is not just a side comment anymore. It's the comment. It's your headline. It's your legacy. Dillon Gabriel walked into that trap thinking it would be funny, maybe edgy, maybe competitive. Just a little preseason jab. Some light ego flexing before the real games start. Except, he forgot who he was talking about. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a brand. He's a statement. He's a symbol of the new generation of athletes who know how to play on the field and off it. The cameras don't just find him. They follow him. And when you come for someone with that level of attention, especially without backing it up, you're not just punching up. You're throwing yourself off a cliff. And Stephen A. didn't let that slide for a second. The way he went in, it was precise, calculated. He didn't foam at the mouth like he sometimes does. No, this one was measured fury. The kind of dressing down that feels less like a debate and more like a courtroom conviction. Gabriel wasn't being criticized, he was being exposed. Stephen A. started with the basics. Completion rates, QBR, head-to-head wins. It wasn't even close. Gabriel's numbers, while decent, didn't pop. No breakout games. No signature moments. Just solid, which is great if you're a career backup, but embarrassing if you're out here shading someone who's done more for the sport in a calendar year than you've managed in 5. Then he moved to the part that really stung. Relevance. Let's not act like people are buying tickets to see Dillon Gabriel. Stephen A. snapped, voice sharp as glass. Let's not act like the headlines, the viral clips, the ESPN specials, are about you. Boom. And the worst part? He wasn't wrong. Shedeur has been the story, the moment, the headline for months now. Whether it's game footage, press conferences, or just walking through airports, the man has the kind of gravitational pull that you simply can't teach. Meanwhile, Gabriel's biggest viral moment is this one. The moment he got dragged on live TV by a man in a sharp suit and louder voice. The irony? In trying to steal some of Shedeur's shine, he actually amplified it. He handed Shedeur another spotlight, gift-wrapped, sealed with desperation, and stood there blinking when it blew up in his face. And Shedeur saw it. He watched the clip, probably didn't even need the volume on to know what was happening. Because that's the part that hits hardest. He didn't even have to respond. He didn't need to tweet, post, subtweet, or press a single key. Stephen A. did all the heavy lifting, and the court of public opinion delivered the verdict before lunch. That silence? That lack of reaction? It wasn't apathy. It was power. It was the quiet confidence of someone who knows they don't need to validate noise with acknowledgement. Someone who knows the scoreboard, both literal and metaphorical, will handle that. And let's not ignore the cultural undercurrent flowing through all of this. Whether Gabriel meant it or not, his comment struck a nerve because it echoed something deeper, something that's been seen too many times in sports, media, life. the attempt to minimize black excellence by calling it overhyped. The old trope of framing confidence as arrogance. Of questioning whether someone earned the spotlight when they built it with their own hands. Stephen A. wasn't just defending Shedeur the player. He was defending what Shedeur represents. A young black man who doesn't shrink. Who shows up, stylish, centered, and unapologetically himself. Who doesn't ask for approval from old systems but rewrites them instead. And Gabriel? Well, intentionally or not, he tried to chip away at that. Tried to bring Shedeur back down to his level. And when you do that, when you make that choice, you better have the resume to match. Spoiler, he didn't. And that's why this moment hit different. Because it wasn't just a clapback. It was a cultural correction. A public reminder that you can't erase someone's impact with one line, especially when your own name doesn't carry the weight to do it. By the end of the segment, Stephen A. didn't just walk away with the final word. He walked away having re-established the line between confidence and clout chasing. Between critique and disrespect. Between competitive trash talk and culturally tone-deaf foolishness. Dillon Gabriel thought he was playing chess. Turns out he was playing checkers on a board someone else already flipped. And now he has to live with it. Because no matter how well he plays this season, there will always be that clip. That reminder. That moment when his words outpaced his worth, and the entire sports world heard the crash. Meanwhile, Shedeur? He moves on. Unbothered. Focused. And probably laughing just a little. Because when you're at the center of a storm and come out cleaner than you went in, that's not luck. That's legacy. This isn't just a lesson in humility. It's a masterclass in narrative control. It's about knowing when to speak and knowing when to let the world do the talking for you. And for Gabriel, it's a reminder that in the arena of public discourse, you don't get to punch up when you haven't built your own stage yet. Because the second you try to drag someone down without receipts, you risk being dragged yourself, by someone with a louder mic and a sharper memory. So next time you want to fire a shot at the crown, Dillon, bring more than words. Because when the Stephen A.s of the world step into the room, you better pray your resume can talk back. Let's break this down one more time. Dillon Gabriel, solid college career, yes. A couple bright spots? Sure. But we're talking about someone who's bounced around programs, who's respected in the locker room, but not exactly shaking up the culture. He's never led a playoff run. He's never shifted the national conversation. He's never walked into a press conference and turned it into a cultural moment. There's no aura. No electricity. Then there's Shedeur. Every time he steps on the field, it's an event. There's energy. There's meaning. There's weight. It's not just about stats with him, it's about symbolism. He's carrying something. He's wearing the expectations of a generation on his back, and somehow he's making it look easy. And Gabriel? He tried to reduce all of that to one quote. One little overhyped jab. That's like tossing a pebble at a freight train and expecting it to derail. No chance. And Stephen A. knew that. That's why he was so incensed. Because this wasn't just another sports beef. This was an example of something deeper. The tired, familiar cycle where a black athlete shines just a little too brightly, just a little too confidently, and suddenly someone comes along trying to humble him in public. It's subtle. It's coded. But it happens over and over again. So when Stephen A. saw it happening again in real time, he didn't just call it out. He obliterated it. You don't get to question greatness, he said, pounding the desk like it owed him money. Not when you haven't done a damn thing to earn that microphone. And that's where it really lands, earned. Because Shedeur didn't fall into this position. He wasn't gifted the spotlight. He earned it with performance, with poise, with every play under pressure. Every game where all eyes were on him because of his name, and he showed up like he knew he belonged there. The kid doesn't shrink. He doesn't whine. He doesn't crack. And he doesn't run from expectations. So when someone like Dillon Gabriel steps in acting like Shedeur's success is just some media creation, it doesn't just miss, it offends. It reveals a complete misunderstanding of what this moment in sports even is. Because this isn't just about football anymore. This is about narrative, about brand, about cultural footprint. And that's a game Shedeur Sanders is already winning with or without Gabriel's approval. And let's just say it, the reason this all exploded the way it did is because Stephen A. Smith has been waiting for someone to try this. Waiting for someone to mouth off about Shedeur. To discredit him. To poke at him with no real grounds. Because Stephen A. knows what it looks like when a young black quarterback gets disrespected on a national stage. He's seen it for years. The double standards. The not ready comments. The character critiques. And when it happened this time, he wasn't about to let it pass unchallenged. He lit the whole narrative on fire. And the brilliance of it was that he didn't need to stretch. He didn't need to embellish. He just laid it all out like a courtroom closing statement. This was who Shedeur was. This was what he'd accomplished. This was how he'd carried himself under the hottest spotlight in college football. And this was Dillon Gabriel. A solid resume, but nothing generational. Nothing game-changing. No defining moments that would make people say, "That guy? He deserves the floor." So why was he speaking? That's the question Stephen A. kept hammering. Why are you talking? Why are you trying to drag someone down when you haven't even climbed yet? It was more than commentary. It was a public reckoning. And the fallout? Oh, it was swift. Fans weren't just siding with Shedeur, they were laughing at Gabriel. Comment sections filled up with barbs, memes, "Who even is this guy?" posts. It went from trash talk to total embarrassment. He wasn't the plucky underdog anymore. He was the guy who got roasted by a sports legend on national television. A cautionary tale in real time. And that's the brutal truth about this era. Your mistake doesn't fade quietly. It gets clipped, posted, remixed, and remembered. There's no disappearing into the background anymore. You say something reckless and the receipts live forever. Now every press conference Gabriel attends, someone's going to bring this up. Every time he struggles on the field, the clip resurfaces. That Stephen A. soundbite becomes the ghost that haunts him. The "you don't get to talk" moment. Meanwhile, Shedeur? He hasn't missed a beat. He's still showing up. Still staying focused. Still winning the media game without even trying. Because he doesn't have to respond. He is the response. That's what makes this so satisfying. The man didn't say a word and still walked away looking like the composed, unbothered star. Meanwhile, the guy who opened his mouth? He got smoked on national television and hasn't been able to say anything since. Silence wins again. And for every other athlete watching this play out, it's a reminder. You don't punch up without preparation. You don't try to tear someone down unless your foundation is rock solid. Because if it's not, someone like Stephen A. will blow it all up in under 3 minutes, with receipts, passion, and that little head tilt he does before delivering the final blow. So what now? Gabriel rebuilds if he can. Maybe he leans into the villain role. Maybe he tries to let his play do the talking. Maybe he just never mentions the name Shedeur Sanders again and hopes this all fades in a few seasons. But Shedeur? He just keeps doing what he does. Elevating. Thriving. Leading. Making headlines without trying to go viral for the wrong reasons. Because when the cameras are on and the pressure's high and the moment gets messy, he doesn't blink. That's the difference. That's why Stephen A. had to step in. Because this wasn't just about protecting a player, it was about defending a standard. A level of excellence, of poise, of cultural weight that deserves respect. And Dillon Gabriel? He forgot that for a second. He forgot who he was talking about. Stephen A. reminded him. Loudly. Brilliantly. And permanently. It's not just about your stat line anymore. It's about your presence, your awareness, your command of the moment. And when you try to step into the arena and challenge someone who's already mastered that stage, you better be ready for what's coming. Gabriel wasn't. Because in his mind it was probably just one little comment. A jab. A typical preseason puff chest moment. Let me show I'm not scared of the big name. But that's not how this works anymore. Not when you're poking at someone like Shedeur Sanders. Not when you're dealing with a name that doesn't just dominate sports but transcends it. Not when Stephen A. Smith is lurking with a loaded monologue and a national platform. Dillon Gabriel didn't just talk trash. He triggered a cultural moment. And he got caught wildly unprepared for the backlash that followed. Because when Stephen A. Smith starts circling, you're not just being debated, you're being studied. He came in with data. He came in with highlights, lowlights, receipts, and that very specific tone that makes it feel like he's simultaneously yelling at you and your ancestors. And he knew, this wasn't just a petty sports spat. This was about respect. About place. About understanding when to sit down and shut up. And Gabriel didn't understand that. That's why Stephen A. didn't just check him. He dismantled him. Slowly. Brick by brick. Legacy by legacy. You know what Shedeur's doing? Stephen A. asked, voice low, building like a preacher winding up. He's changing the temperature of college football. He's doing what your numbers never did. He's doing what your transfers never brought. He's leading. He's captivating. He's unbothered. And then came the pause. The infamous Stephen A. pause. That little break he takes right before dropping the verbal equivalent of a steel chair to the back. And you, Dillon Gabriel, just became a footnote in his story. You could feel it in your bones. There's something about seeing someone dragged with truth. Not pettiness, not exaggeration. Just plain, painful reality. Gabriel wasn't ready. He thought he was stepping into a conversation. He stepped into a legacy and got eaten alive. And the wildest part of all this? It didn't have to go down this way. Gabriel could have stayed in his lane. Focused on the field. Let his game do the talking. Built his own name instead of trying to chip at someone else's. But no, he went for the shortcut. The call-out. The headline grab. And it cost him. Because now, no matter how well he plays this season, there's an asterisk attached. There's a shadow. There's a moment everyone remembers that has nothing to do with his throwing arm and everything to do with his mouth. Meanwhile, Shedeur doesn't have to lift a finger. He's got Stephen A. handling the cleanup. He's got fans defending him in every comment section. He's got culture behind him. Legacy behind him. Timing on his side. That's power. And that's what makes this entire debacle so fascinating. Because power doesn't always come from volume. It comes from presence. And Shedeur? He's got it. He's had it from day one. You can't coach it. You can't fake it. And you definitely can't try to tear it down with weak shots from the cheap seats. Gabriel didn't just pick the wrong fight. He picked the wrong era. This is the age of athletes who aren't just playing the game, they're owning it. On the field. In the media. Across every platform. And if you don't understand how that works, if you're still clinging to the old school, talk trash and hope it sticks approach, you'll get left behind. Or worse, humiliated. And Gabriel? He didn't just get left behind. He became the example. The cautionary tale. The meme. The quote. The face of, don't try this unless your resume can actually hold up. And even if he comes back with a great season, even if he silences doubters and puts up career-best numbers, it won't change what happened here. This clip will follow him. It's part of his narrative now. And that's the kind of thing that lingers. But for Shedeur, this is just another chapter. Another week. Another moment where the universe tested him and he didn't have to flinch. Didn't have to tweet. Didn't have to react. Because when you are the headline, you don't have to chase it. Stephen A. did that for him. And the final nail? It wasn't even something said on air. It was the vibe. The aftermath. The way the internet felt after the segment aired. That collective, oh, he messed up. The avalanche of reactions. The widespread consensus that Gabriel had spoken out of turn and got corrected in full surround sound. It wasn't just a loss. It was a lesson. And that's what Stephen A. Smith does best. He turns moments into monuments. He makes sure the mistake echoes louder than the comment that caused it. And in this case, he didn't just defend Shedeur Sanders, he elevated him. So what's the takeaway? Simple. Talk less. Play more. Stay in your lane until you've earned the map to someone else's. Because if you come for a rising legend like Shedeur Sanders without the credentials to back it up, you're not just inviting a clapback. You're inviting a reckoning. And when it comes, it might sound a whole lot like Stephen A. Smith, live, loud, and absolutely unforgiving.